Hi everyone, and thanks Naveen for pulling me into this. It's very nice to see we're having these regular meetups online to talk about stuff. So I am not sure exactly why Naveen pulled me into this. Maybe it's because I have a bit of history working with um, making maps on Wikipedia and using boundaries, and also did a little bit of work in the disputed borders in OSM, and how it's handled, and creating like a India version according to the official boundaries that we have. So those are things we can cover. So one of the things I have is I have a paper doc which I'm going to share, and we can just uh, feel free to use it to add links or uh, any other sources. I don't know if you require a Dropbox account to see it. No, it says, yeah, as a guest you can view. I'm not sure if you can edit though as a guest. Um, but if you have something to add, yeah, just put it in chat and you can add it there. Okay, I'm not sharing my screen.
Oh wait, he has to make you presenter, then only you can do it. Naveen, can you do that? Yeah, now you can. Arun?
Okay. Let's see.
Oh, is at the bottom.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
Cool, we do see the screen. Just change the tab,
All right.
Otherwise it mirrors. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, yeah, a little bit background about myself. My name is Arun. I was involved in OSM since 2007. When when I first heard about it and started mapping bits of started mapping from Chennai and then Bangalore and then large parts of the country, and always knew that at some point it's going to be a big competitor to Google Maps, and there's going to be companies using OSM for competing with like all the commercial providers. Uh, Incidentally, it turns out one of the biggest such companies which do this, company by the name Mapbox, they were they wanted to expand operations in India, and they somehow got in touch with me to build like a team of mappers. And I think some of you on the call, Kelvin, they've all like worked in the same team to build like tools and processes, converting OSM to actual products. So I'm currently working at Mapbox. I work in the boundaries team at Mapbox, which is pretty interesting, and it gave me insight into creating uh, a commercial data set of boundaries. So it's a small team, around 4 people, and we maintain a global database of 4 million boundaries of every type. Um, so I can later talk about what are the different kind of boundaries in the world, and we can also see in OSM how it is, and how does it compare. So let's start with talking about OSM itself. Just clear all my tabs. So the default boundaries that we all know of is the administrative boundaries. So that's you start with the national boundaries, then the state boundaries, then district, sub-district. This is pretty standard for every part of India. The name of a sub-district varies based on the state and the previous thing. Some places they call Tehsil, Taluk, or Mandal, or even there's one more called block, which is sometimes equivalent to a sub-district, but also sometimes not. So block is a bit of a strange case depending on the state. And then we have the local bodies, which is the urban local bodies and rural local bodies. In common parlance, we can think of it as cities or towns, and the Gram Panchayat, where you have a head of, and it's mainly for municipal affairs like garbage, roads, and maintenance of that. It's technically not an administrative uh, boundary. So administration, where you actually have government administration, which is common, is only up to like sub-district. But after that, it could vary based on the state. And really, these levels are more of local bodies. Village is also a little strange. Village, you have a revenue village. I think that's the actual term. Essentially, how the tax is collected and property records are maintained. And a village is usually divided into smaller units called wards. And wards are even there for cities. And the most smallest unit of any kind of boundary in India is a ward, which are there for villages as well as cities and towns. So this really is the range of boundaries that we have been mapping on OpenStreetMap. And I think national, state, district is 100% covered. Sub-district is probably 95%. And after this, it's sort of unknown. I think based on the state, and it's sort of ad hoc where we're getting data and what we're doing. And what I've put here in these blocks is the tags that we use. So we can actually do a query and see live what is the state of these boundaries. Just add the link for if you want to try it out yourself. So suppose we want the district boundary. The tag that we can search for is boundary equals administrative. And then you have admin level and 5, which is used for the district. So I've also added the link here, which has a documentation of how we are doing the tagging in India. I don't know, Naveen, do we have like a coverage percentage of what's been progress for all the other levels?
Yeah, in each link we have mentioned actually. If you go to the sub-district.
Oh, very cool. Oh, and they also have name. Naveen, were you involved in putting this table together?
Yes, yes.
This is amazing. So I think for districts, till districts, it's 100%, right?
Yeah, district it is 100%. Maybe one, I think, in Arunachal Pradesh. Yeah, it is mapped. Yeah.
This is some pretty amazing work to compile all of this. Oh, and perfect. There's also like a overpass turbo link to query it right away. these are all the districts in Andhra Pradesh. And I think Srihari as well has done quite a bit of work here. Yeah, so in terms of the actual mapping, the basic of I think what we map for every boundary is yeah, the levels and the type of boundary and the names, the local names. Also very useful is adding the Wikidata ID, and we look into what that is. And each boundary has another member, which is the two other members. One is a label, which is sort of like the center point or what is an ideal location to label that boundary. So this you can see this is part of the boundary with a role as label. And then the other member is the admin center, which is like the capital of the boundary. And this is all the tag. So this is related to the same boundary, but with the admin center. Oh, and we can also see who's at it. I don't know if Arjuna is on the call, but he comes from the Wikimedia community, and he's also been very active in updating all of this. So there's been some pretty amazing work from the community to map all these districts and also map every sub-district. Since I work on more on the commercial side of boundaries, the boundaries on OSM for India, especially to the district level, is actually very good. It's got complete coverage. And considering the process everyone follows on using different sources to get it done, it's really a commendable job. So this is the Wikidata article on the same district. So for those who aren't familiar, Wikidata is sort of like the open knowledge base. It's like Wikipedia, but in a tabular form, where it's like an open database of knowledge. And pretty much every page on Wikipedia also has a Wikidata ID associated with it. The way to find it is, suppose you're on a Wikipedia page. This the Wikipedia page for the district. On the left, you would have a link which says Wikidata item. And if you click on that, you'll go to the associated Wikidata item, which describes that same district, but more in a database form with everything tabulated. The most useful things that we can use Wikidata for is the translation. So the translations on Wikidata are almost all the time.
Hey, Nina, can you just mute your mic, please?
It's almost always more comprehensive. What we can achieve. Yeah, so here we can see for Prakasham district, all the translations that's there on Wikidata. And if we see the same for this, yeah, OSM itself has just the Kannada, Telugu, and the English name. But if we want more languages like the Tamil or Malayalam or Hindi, then by joining using the data from Wikidata, we can actually pretty much create like a map in any language that we want. The big advantage of using Wikidata for this kind of metadata is that the data here is public domain. So there's completely copyright free. And there's no restriction on how it can be used. Unlike OpenStreetMap, where it follows the OBDL and you have to attribute it back. Wikidata has no restrictions. So the advantage of that is, so when commercial companies use boundaries, it becomes a little problematic to use the. Where is the sound coming from?
Yeah, the Nina is like.
Okay, no issues.
Yeah. She just turned on the mic and there is a lot of interference from there. So yeah. Okay, continue.
All right. Yeah, so Wikidata is a huge advantage for any commercial users of data. So even for us as instant at Mapbox, when we use boundaries, because of the way we relicense the data, it becomes tricky to use OSM for the purpose. But we can always use Wikidata. So it's helpful, I think, as a community when the geometry for mapping is great on OSM. But when we're adding things like translations or any other properties or metadata, like for instance, population, and we can see over here, population, male population. So this is coming from, I think, the census. Yeah. So this sort of metadata is really useful to add in Wikidata because Wikidata can be used by a wider audience. And the only thing you need to connect both OSM and Wikidata is to use this unique identifier, which is called a QID. So pretty much every item in Wikidata has a unique ID called a QID, and this almost never changes. So once it's created, it remains fairly stable. So even 10, 15 years down, by looking up this Q15390, it'll always refer to Prakasham district. And in case Prakasham district is, if the district is just renamed, it will still be the same QID, but it'll just have a new name. But in case if the district splits or merges with another other district and it overall changes as a district, then it might get a new ID. So, but
So yeah, one thing is how the OSM map is used in Wikipedia is I just chatted in that link.
oh yeah, and I think that will also be really cool to show. Maybe Naveen, you can do a short demo of how that's done and how OSM maps are used in Wikipedia because of how we map on OSM. But the main thing for us to remember is when we map on OSM is to add a Wikidata property which maps to the QID. And once this is done, it enables this kind of joining across projects and allows so much more uses of the OSM data and mixing with Wikidata.
So is there any automated scripts we can use for, because in the sub-district it is almost 6,000 actually. So I have done for few states, but is there any automated way we can do?
You mean matching OSM and Wikidata?
Yes.
So specifically, you want to know how to automatically add the Wikidata QID to the OSM subdistrict.
Sub-district, yes.
Yeah, so I have worked on a few tools before which do this, but there is always a problem of doing these things automatically because like 90% of the time it's usually correct, but there's always these weird cases where either there's a duplicate entry on Wikidata or the names don't match exactly, or or if there's something incorrect on OSM or Wikidata, then you'll end up with an incorrect match. So the way I would suggest is one is we can create a list of items in Wikidata which has of all the subdistricts. So we make those list of 6,000, and let's do that right now. So So just like how we have overpass to query OpenStreetMap data, there's something called the Wikidata query engine. I'm going to paste the link here. And so suppose we want to create a listing of all the sub-districts in India from Wikidata. It's pretty easy to do that. There's a wizard here which can help build that query. So I'll just click on it's called information, the first tool. And it opens a query helper tool. So this allows you to select a particular class of objects. Think of it like a OpenStreetMap tag. And in this case, we want sub-district. The sub-districts of I'll find the actual tag. So one way to do it is to find the Wikipedia page of a sub-district. Can you give me a name of a sub-district?
I just pasted in link in the.
Okay, let me check. Okay, Tehsil of India. So this is every item which is a sub-district will have this particular tag, will be associated with this QID in Wikidata. So what we can do is we'll build a query using that. We can say Tehsil of India, and you can see this already gives like a listing of Tehsils and the Wikidata ID. I'll just remove this limit. And there's 550 results in Wikidata. So it looks like even on Wikidata, it's not complete, the number of sub-districts. So we need to figure out what the mismatch is and add those missing ones. So the easy way to do this would be to just divide the work by state. So we can build a listing of we can build this table out. So we have the Wikidata ID, the name of the sub-district, and we can add some more columns. We can put the district name located in the administrative entity. So we can say add this field. And you can see how this listing builds. So now we have Wikidata ID, the taluka name, the district name, and similarly we could, so there's no state name which is common. So also capital, this seems interesting. Yeah, so this can also help with the mapping, where if you want to in OSM confirm whether the admin center is the correct one, we can confirm it using this listing. So this is how we can use Wikidata. So I'm going to just share this query so we can use it. Yeah, one thing to note is Wikidata could also be incomplete, like we saw. Yeah, so this is a query you can get the Wikidata listing, and then you can also download this list. So yeah, I think one way to do it is putting it in a spreadsheet, and we can create a task where we can go through each sub-district one by one, and then match the two and update the status. And if we divide this task by state, it should be easily doable. Yeah, from my experience, I've found automated things to not work that well, especially if both the data sets have incomplete members or have some mistakes. if both data sets are perfect, it would have been easier to do an automated match.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the administrative boundaries. Then we have the legislative boundaries. So this is boundaries to where we elect people who make laws. So in India, there's two levels. You have the parliamentary constituencies. So this is we elect MPs to parliamentary constituencies, and then you have an assembly constituency on a state level for the MLAs. So pretty much for every election, these are pretty important. And I don't think we have mapped any of these yet in India on OSM. It's also a little tricky to map, mainly because these can cut across districts and sub-districts. So it's not a clear bunch of, we can't say a collection of districts becomes an assembly constituencies. There is every 10 years they do a delimitation and redraw the boundaries, and it is a little harder to maintain. So till we have complete village level mapping, then it could be easier to map these on OSM. But until that is done, I think it's going to be a little tricky to map the legislative boundaries. There is the data of this is already there, I think, on the data meet group.
Yeah, I think you can look up in the GitHub of DataMid.
Yeah, so maybe someone can add the link if they want the data for that.
So, okay, Arun, I'm leaving now. I'll hop off. You guys continue. And thank you for your time, Arun.
No problem. See you, Satya.
Bye.
And then in OSM, you can also map postal code boundaries. And for India, it's not applicable because we really don't have boundaries for PIN codes in India. The India Post does not maintain any kind of actual boundaries, and it's hard to verify as well. So this seems like we wouldn't map it in India. The postal code has been mostly done for certain countries. UK is one, and I think Singapore is also one, where there's actually government-approved postal code boundaries that one particular zip code actually has an area that it serves. But usually postal codes do not work that way, and how zip codes are assigned is more on it's a more linear sort of feature where yeah, all the addresses along this road belongs to one zip code. So most of the world, that's how postal code is assigned, and in India as well, it's the same. And then other countries have something called statistical boundaries, which is only used for something like a census or for reporting. Mostly this is used in Europe, and it's not applicable in India. Although I think I've seen a few reports from the Ministry of Statistics which talks about regions, but I don't think they're actually legally defined. So yeah, so the main and the other boundary is the protected areas. So this is super useful to map because there's no good database or comprehensive database of this for India anywhere. There's a few from the government which is not very accurate. So I think as a community, mapping these protected areas is really useful. So the protected areas are essentially environmentally protected areas like national parks, biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries. And also culturally protected areas like archaeological sites, areas maintained by the ASI. There's different classifications for these protected areas that we can use. So the national parks will be protected class 2. Wildlife sanctuaries is protected class 4. And Yeah, community-based protected areas. And in India, we have a very interesting concept called a sacred groves, which I think at least in temples, they have small land attached to the temple, which are protected for certain uses, for growing of certain species of trees and protecting their biodiversity. So that would be under protected class 21. And the cultural assets would be the heritage monuments. So this is again a very useful database to collect. So I'll add that as well here. So this really is the scope of things, boundaries we can map in OpenStreetMap. And personally for me, I think the most important is the protected areas because a good data set does not exist, followed by the administrative and especially the village boundaries, because this is something we can do on a local level. And I have gone through various village boundary datasets from the government, official village boundary datasets, and none of them match. So it is very clear even the government has not been able to make like a accurate centralized village boundary data set. So the way they are doing it is they are digitizing cadastral maps from every village. And they've been doing it for the last 15 years. They've spent a lot of money and there's a lot of mismatches and issues with this still. Like where OSM can really step in is if we do like an accurate ground level mapping of villages, like what was done in Kerala by Jason. For those of you who don't know the story, maybe Naveen can paste a link to a few links. So that kind of citizen-led grassroots mapping can build something which even the government has not been able to do right now. The other boundaries, more or less, there are, at least with sub-districts, there are existing datasets, which are fairly consistent. But after that, there are datasets more on a local level. Maybe each city has its own, but there's not been any India-level dataset which has been accurate. So that's something to think of in terms of future.
So Arun, there was one suggestion from Hens, no, because this hierarchical nature will be gone if we map so administrative level. UP and ward.
Can you repeat that, Naveen?
So the hierarchy nature, no. So if you see BBMP will have multiple sub-districts. So the
Right.
hierarchy nature will go off. So he was suggesting removing this ULB and RLB plus what to different LSG authority tag instead of boundary equal to administrative. There was a
Correct.
proposal move that to revenue, only revenue village can be administrative level local authority, I guess.
True. Yeah, I actually agree with that because
So if
they
you
are
go to
not
the C also, in the C also in local government boundaries, no? Just same thing.
oh yeah, local authority. Yeah, I agree. The urban local bodies are not an actual administrative. So it's actually a good idea to move it. Yeah, and revenue village can stay.
Yeah.
Because this clearly maps under, it coincides with the boundaries of a sub-district.
Yeah.
But a local body uh, can comprise of multiple sub-districts or can even comprise multiple districts. Like Bombay is comprised of 2 districts. So it's this doesn't fit in well here.
And WAD also. WAD is also means revenue village something will be survey number, no? Survey number and stuff like that.
True. Yeah. Yeah. After sub-district, it becomes a mix. Sometimes it can map correctly under one, but it also may not. So
Yeah,
these were.
but we have to come into a consensus actually.
Yeah, I think the issue is we still don't know the overall picture because different states may have different situations.
No, in the LG boundary website, it is more clear actually. If you go that link, no, that CEO local authority wherever we have mentioned. So this, so they have RLB, traditional LBs, and urban LBs. So this the document which on the right side, web service offered by. The last page of that one is more clear. Maybe the last page. Yeah, this one.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know about the traditional LBs. I have first heard and not used to that.
Yeah, so maybe what we can do is we should build like a complete listing of every local body and how the hierarchy is.
Yeah, in each state it is different. So
Yeah, so that could be a task we can do, and I am also happy to help pitch in because I was playing with the API of the local government website, and it's actually pretty useful. We can query, we can say list all the villages in a particular local body or a particular district, and it gives you that hierarchical mapping.
okay.
Yeah, for anyone curious, they can actually use this app called Postman. They have incorrectly said Poster. So it's called Postman, and if you put the same config as this, you can get the results like this. I tried it out and it works. The only issue is I think they're still using 2011 data. So I don't know if the latest, if a new body was formed after that, how do they assign the code? Because all the code is based on the 2011 census. So that needs to be checked how updated this data set is.
They have updated Ladakh and all, but I don't know.
Yeah, because in the listing of state, it didn't have Ladakh. It still had Jammu Kashmir.
No, in the website, if you go on the first page, it is showing. I don't know. Need to see.
Okay. Yeah, but the API still did not seem to show that. So that's something to verify. So we don't know. Yeah, we don't know if they are updating the API.
Yeah, API they are not. Means the dashboard was showing the Ladakh and number of sub-district number.
Yeah, this is really useful. I think this can be a good input to figure out how we can do the assignment of admin level. Okay, in terms of using the OSM boundaries itself, listed a few ways for people to get the data. I think the most convenient way is to get a shapefile using this particular website. So this is a website built specifically for OpenStreetMap boundaries. So one of the things you need to do is you have to log in with OSM to actually be able to download and explore. So it gives a good listing and based on the mapping and admin levels, you can see. So if we select India, it'll load the India boundary and list everything mapped under that. So this is useful for also downloading a specific district if you want. But one of the issues, if anyone has tried to use the OSM boundaries, there are two issues. One is, of course, the disputed borders. But another is how the boundaries are mapped by buffering the coastlines. So the boundaries on OSM, the national boundary includes the 12 nautical mile, uh, I think it's called the territorial coastline. So the amount of coastal area which is also part of the Indian territory. And in many cases, you may not want this. You might want just the land. So there's an option here um, to clip it at the coastline, at the OSM coastline. And doing this manually is a bit of a tedious process. But from here, one is able to export directly. We'll just actually try it out. We'll just open this in QGIS. And here we can see how it clipped the national boundaries exactly at the coastline. A few more useful things is you can also get it as a shapefile or in various other formats, or in SVG if you want to use it in a graphic software like Inkscape to do some cool styling. There's also a command line interface. Yeah, there's also a command line interface, and I have pasted the terminal command. So what this will do is, if you open terminal and just run this curl command, I don't know if it'll work in Windows, but it should work fine on Linux or Mac. For India, it will download all the levels. So from admin level 2 to admin level 6. And export areas equals water. If this is changed to land, it will clip the coastline on the land. So the command line is pretty useful for anyone who's regularly wants to export like a updated shape file from OSM on the boundaries. Of course, there's also using overpass if you just want the raw from OSM directly. And then you have the GeoFabric, which they provide a convenient format. But this is a huge package, which also contains all the other OSM data for India, like roads. So you may just be interested in one layer. So that's sort of ways to use it. I was thinking of showing some joining in QGIS, but that makes sense only if everyone has QGIS and wants to follow along. So I'm not going to show that. Anything else anyone would like to talk about? Or
what is this? How we are planning to use this census towns mapping? How it is related?
oh, this one?
Census towns are there, no? Census towns and villages.
Where are you? Census towns. So census towns is similar to it's I think a gram panchayat which census has elevated to the status of a town. Yeah, it'll be same as an urban local body, I would think.
Okay. Because a census, I think they give us a village. Everything in India is divided as a village, revenue villages, and whichever the agricultural that something is there, no?
Yes. So essentially, when we do the census, I think the census has a few criteria for classifying urban and rural areas. So villages that have greater than 10,000 people, and I think over 50% of population in non-agricultural. 50% of working population non-agricultural jobs, I think, becomes a town according to a census. So they do have some criteria for it, but it's not legal. It's only for the census. Legally, it's still a village. So I don't think we should. We could maybe use that just as a criteria for classifying the place as a town or a village. But the border itself doesn't change.
Okay.
It might also be interesting for some of you to know the commercial boundary data sets that's available for India. So please, that's the work I do. Let's see, I'll just share this link. So what we do is we don't source boundaries from Osm at Mapbox, but we buy the boundaries from different companies and aggregate it. So we don't know ultimately where they source boundaries from. It's probably government or a collection of sources. But, so in terms of a commercial application of boundaries, boundaries are very useful for two main purposes. One is data visualization, and the other is spatial analysis. So like a use case for data visualization is you have some kind of demographic data like population, which is aggregated by a certain boundary like a district or sub-district. So you need the boundary data to attach the value of population, and then you can do a visualization like a choropleth. So this is the most common type of visualization where some kind of numerical value associated with each polygon can be visualized. So for this, you need boundaries to be able to do this. So this is one main use of boundaries. So essentially, the boundaries that Mapbox we collect and provide is used by variety of applications. And if someone's used Tableau for visualization, it uses the boundaries that comes from Mapbox. So we do have, like for India, we have the same, so our admin levels start from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. So 0 is usually the country or the territory. Then you have the state, then the districts, and then sub-districts. So this covers the territory 100%. So it might be an interesting reference to use on in case there is some issue with, we don't know what the name of a sub-district is, or want to compare with a commercial provider what it is. You can always use the Mapbox, this particular tool, to see what is the name of a district. And one other important thing while dealing with boundaries is that of disputed areas, right? So of course, not everyone wants, within use in India, this is not allowed to be shown. So you need a mechanism to provide different versions of boundaries. So there is a way to do that where for each boundary or each country, there's different versions of it available based on what is legally required. So this was something that I had to do of splitting Ladakh and even so splitting of Jammu and Kashmir state into Ladakh and the other one, and equivalently the districts as well. So to use this, we use like various sources, but it's all a highly manual process, and in a way it's similar to how we map on OSM, that we have to, but we use QGIS and use various sources and see where to split districts. But I don't think the accuracy of it, like on a ground level, would be anything close to what would be if we map it on OSM using a ground survey. So it has its flaws. But generally for commercial users, people are not too worried about, oh, it needs to be accurate to like a meter. But for just visualization or making chloroplates, it's fine that it looks okay on this level. So yeah, feel free to use this as a reference if you want another comparison as well.
Yeah. So it has 709. So yeah.
Yeah, how much is there on OSM then?
732. Yeah.
732. So yeah, so clearly OSM is much better than what is there at Mapbox. Yeah, but there's other issues that we have when we use OSM. So one of the things is making sure all the boundaries are seamless. There's no gaps in them. And it's much easier when we buy it of somebody else. So when they do the quality checking and ensure those sort of things, than us using OSM directly. So those are some of the technical issues of when companies deal with data. It becomes a little more complex to use OSM directly, unless someone can create that value added of quality checking and provide a ready to use product. Interesting is the postal code areas. So we have zip code, postal code boundaries, which is, and I've checked it for many areas that I'm familiar with, and it's pretty good. So once again, these are only rough areas based on various other factors like aggregating the actual addresses used in that area. But this is not 100% accurate. And that is one issue with postal code boundaries. It can never be 100% accurate. There'll always be like one address or a few addresses on the other side of the road which will have this particular pin code. And it won't be possible to represent that as a neat boundary. Mainly because we don't, like officially pin codes are not defined based on these kind of boundaries, but these boundaries have been derived from the actual pin code locations. So there's going to be some pin code point locations. So there's always going to be some approximation. But useful for anyone curious on what postal code boundaries might look like. And these are postal code boundaries aggregated by the first two digits. So if you want to know, if the first two digits are 36, it's all going to fall in this region. Anyone else have any questions? Something they want to share, talk about?
I think there is a couple of questions in the chat. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't see the questions here. So let me just see from the top. Nina, map the boundary for the military area. So this is this is a little dangerous territory. I think ideally we should avoid trying to map military areas in any kind of detail for obvious reasons that it's the government always considers these sort of things state secret, and putting it on a map is always it raises some issues. Thankfully, it's never been a problem because I don't think there's been any secret or confidential information that has ever come on OSM. But it's all something that you can see very clearly on Saturn image. You can very clearly see, oh, this area has different kind of land use patterns, and you can map it. And the way it's been done is to just use land use equals military, I think. If anything, I think the only reason to map the area that's used by military is to tell other people avoid this area. Don't map anything inside. So just for us to be safe and for the project as well to be safe. Yeah. Regarding Mapbox map purchase, are maps purchased whenever they change? So do you mean, do we purchase the data whenever the actual territory changes, like in terms of what happened in Kashmir splitting? How it works, like on a commercial level, is we have a contract with our data providers, and they provide us every quarter. I think it's every half year updates based on their sources. So there's no guarantee that it will reflect the actual change for that country when they provide us. So we always have to do our own verification and check. Like in the issue of Kashmir, we had to make the change ourselves because they did not provide the data. Arjun, how would we mark residential colony boundaries? So these are not technically administrative boundaries. The way they have been done is to mark them as a place. So just like we map places or residential colonies with a node saying this is place equals neighborhood, we could do the same using actual polygons and at the same tags. Yeah, because one of the issues is there is no fixed, depending on the colony, some colonies have a proper boundary if it's like a gated community. But in other cases, it's never, oh, this area ends here and after this it's a different area. At the border, there's always a mix of, oh, this is both this area and this area. But yeah, land use residential as well helps. Yeah, one issue there is it applies land use residential to that whole locality, which technically may not be accurate. There might always be some areas within the residential area which could be like a commercial area where there's shops, where overall it's a good approximation and it's a good start to do. Nina's reporting incorrect admin boundaries. Yeah, Naveen, what suggestions do you have for reporting?
These administrative boundaries, you can mark it in, we'll put a chat in this one, in Wiki. Like a sub-district or a district.
Yeah, I wish there was an easy way to monitor the changes in the wiki, because we'll have to keep going to the page every time to check if something has changed. And especially if something is marked wrong, it's maybe easier to go ahead and fix it immediately if by finding someone who knows.
Yeah.
So maybe also flagging it on the Telegram group or the mailing list, I guess. Yeah, mainly letting other people know. Eventually get someone to go in and fix it. . Naveen, do you want to share some resources on the Wikipedia?
Uh, yeah, yeah, mm, yeah, that I am not prepared actually.
No, that's fine. Maybe just sharing links of where it's used and examples of.
Yeah, so how the boundaries are used, I can show. Yeah, just a second. Yeah, I will share my screen.
Yeah, by far, Naveen has done the cooler stuff of mixing OSM and Wikipedia and Wikidata, and has some really good examples.
Able to see my screen?
I don't.
1 second. To add. Yeah, able to see? Hello?
No, not yet. I can see you moving the red dot.
So this one, you are able to see Wikipedia page?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is how we are using the mm, boundaries in Wikipedia, in the boundaries in OSM in Wikipedia. So this is a Kerala boundary to show the district. We are using this one. So it is used in Telugu Wikipedia also for all the villages. So here this is a district. Then we are doing it for the sub district also. So not all the things. Some of the things like if you see, yeah, this is in some districts we have added, not all districts. So if you see Ernakulam also, I think I have here that is there. Then we can add for the sub district also. So if you see the sub district, so this is how it is added in the district. So the sub district is like this. So that is one way we can use. And there was we have added like a list of districts in India. So this page somehow that the query is not working. So we need to fix this one. So it's supposed to list from all the district boundaries actually. Here, I think in the state we are using that query. 1 second. Yeah, states and I think this is states and union territories in India. States and yeah, I think there was an issue that JSON file issue. That's why this is not coming in. So earlier this was properly coming from the wiki data. So recently they broke that one. So otherwise this would have come like this. So district you can show, and this one how we'll show is I can show you. So this is called map frame in Wikipedia. So you need to add the wiki QID. So since it is already added in the Wikipedia OSM, it will query that and it will create the boundary here. So we have done for the this one like districts and for the national highways also.
It's pretty amazing. Is there a limit to how much you can query at a time? Can you query all the roads? Would it work?
Yeah, the roads, I don't know. We have done it for all the this one, all the national highways. I think it has been removed recently. Don't know. Yeah, some version it was showing. The recently it has removed. So it can in the this one there are some issues with the boundaries which these are there, no. So in that case we have to down, which you have done, no, outline of India map. That has some limit of 4 GB, 4 MB actually. That is a limit of query of the data, means the data. Up to that we can have. So I think what was there? I can show one more thing. The roads, I think Kerala is there, I guess. Because this they have the, this is what Kerala state highways looks like. So
And how up to date is this from voters on? Is it queried live from OSM? Like if a QID is changed on OSM, how long does it take to reflect in a query on Wikipedia? Hello? Do others hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It was just me. So I also need to hop off. Anything else anyone wants to say? Can get Naveen to share his links on the paper doc. All right, cool. Thanks so much. And yeah, if anyone's doing interesting things with boundaries, do share. There's quite a few opportunities to make interesting examples or interactive maps using the boundary data that we have collected so far. So even if we see the district websites of the government, it's not very nice. So I've been thinking, how can OSM make those kind of maps much better? And making some nice demos and just showing them and putting open code that they can just reuse would be interesting things to try. Yeah, thank you everyone. I had fun doing this, and I'm available on the Telegram group if anyone wants to get in touch. Yeah, see you all.